when we think about tithing, I don't know that we often think about eating it, do we? We think about giving it, and it's given away. It's interesting that in the instructions here in Deuteronomy, they're told, come to my presence, bring the food with you, and eat it in my presence. They're not going to eat the entire tithe because there's other parts that it goes towards. But look at that. That's very interesting. I think sometimes we think in the ancient world, if somebody were sacrificing to a god, let's say, that they're setting this in front of a shrine and things just rot. They've wasted this food. But quite often in the ancient world, people would come and they would eat together. And that's what you read here. That's what God's asking for. And God doesn't need it, is what's very interesting. God's not the one eating the food. God wants it, though. He says, bring it, bring 10%, bring it to my presence, and eat it there. And many scholars that I was looking into this week point out that bringing the 10% consecrates the 90%. That's what they're doing in this. And giving, like I said, it reveals a lot about the person doing the giving. It reveals much about our relationship. If they're giving 10% of what they have grown, do they trust God with that other 90%? Is that going to sustain them or not? Do we trust that God's going to provide throughout the rest of the year as we give first? You can even read that there of this, what we've grown. Do we really believe that all that we have belongs to God or not? Because that's part of the claim. God owns everything. And sometimes when it comes to giving, we can be a little bit entitled, I think, or have sort of that mentality. These people could have had it too. Okay, I worked the soil, I tilled the ground, I put the plants in, the seeds, I took all the weeds out, I harvested it, and now, God, you want 10% of that? I did the work. And we can think the exact same way today, can't we? I did the work. I went in and day out at my desk. I worked outside. I did whatever I did day in and day out. And now, God, you want me to give some of my hard-earned whatever, money probably for us, away? But here's the thing. Part of giving is honoring God. That's what he's saying. You're supposed to honor me with this, because here's the real truth. Okay, you worked the ground. Who gave the ground the ability to produce in the first place? Who created the seed that could grow in the first place? Who gave you life at all? We're honoring God by giving. That's what we discover in Deuteronomy. There's an anecdote that's floated around for years, and it's about a scientist years in the future. I like scientists, so I'm not anti-scientist, but this one's a funny story. The scientist, anyways, years in the future, we figured out cloning, but we figured out cloning and then some, because the scientist goes to God and says, we figured out not just how to clone, but we can do it from dirt now, just like you created from dirt, God. So as it turns out, we don't need you anymore. We can do it all. And so God says, well, that's really fascinating. Let's have a contest. Why don't we both collect dirt and see who can create a human faster? And so the scientist says, great, let me just collect the sample and I'll go back to my lab. He reaches down, scoops some dirt, and God says, wait a minute, get your own dirt. In giving, we're honoring God by recognizing where it came from in the first place. God gave us the ability to work. In this case, gave them even the ability to work the land. That's a grace. That's a gift undeserved.